Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Christiana Mausi Seram and I'm a public health practitioner. Today I would like to talk about a common poisonous substance that is found in our maize, cassava, rice, peanuts, milk, our spices, our chilies, our cashew nuts, and so many other foods. So this poisonous substance is called aflatoxin. So aflatoxin is a poisonous substance that is produced by a species of fungus known as aspergillus. And this is very common in the soil or on plants. So contamination typically occurs whilst the crop is still on the field or in the farm yet to be harvested, or during harvesting, or that's handling, or during storage. So contamination can occur during any of such periods. Now let's look at very important things about this poisonous substance. The first one is that it is naturally occurring, which makes it even closer to us. It is found commonly in the soil and then on plants. So by the time the food even gets to your table, contamination would have occurred already. But at least you have some control, to take some preventive measures, which we will talk about very soon. Then it is also known, research has shown that 25% of foods worldwide are contaminated by aflatoxin. So this makes it, very important to know about and then prevent, coming in contact with it. The next point is it is exposure related, which means you need to come in contact with it before it can have, those negative consequences on your health. So if you come in contact with large doses of this toxin, that is if you eat food or drink that is highly contaminated with large amounts of aflatoxin, it could lead to sudden illness and death. And typically death occurs as a result of sudden liver failure. So your liver fails suddenly because it's unable to handle or it's unable to detoxify the blood of, this toxin. Then the next one is that if you have gradual exposure to small doses of this toxin substance, it will lead to nutritional deficiencies and then, immunological consequences. Your immunity goes down. Then, however, whether you are exposed to small quantity or large quantity, eventually it will have some cumulative impact on your risk to developing cancer in life. Then the next point is that there can be fetal exposure, which means a baby or a fetus that is developing in the womb can be exposed to this toxic substance if the pregnant woman consumes food or drinks that are contaminated with this toxic substance. So what happens to the fetus if it comes in contact with this toxic substance in the uterus or womb of the mother? Growth, it leads to restriction of growth. So the fetus is not able to develop well normally as it should. So by the time this baby is born, the baby comes out with low birth weight. That's a weight that is lower than 2.5 kilograms at birth. And also this fetus could also have birth defects such as microcephaly or small, the circumference of the head is smaller than the normal at birth, and this affects the brain development as well. So you realize that fetal exposure leads to teratogenic effects or effects on the developing fetus. Then there could also be exposure during the infant or childhood stage. Research has shown that maternal breast milk in developing countries contains higher rates of aflatoxin compared to breast milk of women who are in highly developed countries. So this increases the risk of the children or infants coming in contact with this poisonous substance. Also, when they come in contact, if you feed your child with this food contaminated with this substance, what happens is that it leads to stunted growth. So your child doesn't develop or grow well as he or she is supposed to. So the growth of the child is affected, becomes stagnant, and the child is prone to frequent sicknesses because of low immunity due to this toxic substance that is in the body. Then research has shown that high levels of this poisonous substance, aflatoxin, can be found in the semen of 40% of men who are diagnosed with infertility. So men who have been diagnosed with infertility, 40% of them are found to have this poisonous substance in their semen. So it tells us aflatoxin has some, thing to do with infertility. It can cause infertility. Then the next point is that aflatoxin, no amount of aflatoxin has been found to be safe, or has been found or considered to be safe for human consumption. So what it tells us is that it is a toxic substance that we should avoid totally. So we should take conscious efforts. We should make conscious efforts to, avoid coming in contact with this toxic substance. So if you consume food that has been contaminated by this substance, what happens to you? What are the specific health effects? I've mentioned some of them already. So the health effects include enlargement, sudden enlargement of your spleen, your liver, and kidneys. So those organs become enlarged, and once they are enlarged, it affects their normal function. It could also lead to the failure of your kidney, your liver, and it could also lead to acute or sudden failure of your liver. And this typically results within less than 2 weeks of eating food or drinks, consuming drinks that are contaminated with this food, with this poison. So another health effect is that it could also lead to infertility, which has been proven by research. So it is not a substance that we want to consider at all to come in contact with. We want to avoid it totally. Then the next health effect is that it could lead to suppression of your immune system. So your immune function, you become more susceptible to opportunistic infections such as tuberculosis, because your body has, reduced resistance to such infections. So you usually fall sick. It could also lead to liver cancer or hepatocellular carcinoma. In fact, research has shown that it is one of the major causes of liver cancer in developing countries. When you look at the examples of foods that are typically contaminated by this poison, you realize that most of them are African dietary staples. I mentioned maize, cassava, rice, spices, chilies. The chilies, especially the red chilies. In Ghana, for instance, we cook them and then we dry them in the sun. Then later we ground them into powder, which is stored or sold on the market as ground pepper. So handling of that pepper is very important. How well do you dry them in the sun? Okay. Then so I've mentioned the health effects: liver failure, liver enlargement, spleen enlargement, kidney enlargement, liver cancer. It could lead to infertility. It could lead to stunted growth in children. It could lead to birth defects in children. It could also lead to okay, I've mentioned infertility already. Okay, so now let's look at the preventive strategies. What are some of the preventive strategies that we can take to prevent, coming in contact with this poison? Remember, no amount of this substance is considered safe for human consumption. So we will have to try every means to avoid it totally. So the first one is drying your grains in the sun. How well do you dry your grains, your maize, your rice? Dry them in the sun thoroughly, so to keep them dry. This fungus that produces this poison typically survives temperatures from 12 to 48 degrees Celsius. So it's very important to keep your grains dried. Then the next point is, how well do you save or store your corn dough, your cassava dough, your millet dough, and all the doughs that you make, you keep in your kitchen? The safest way is to apportion your corn dough, your cassava doughs in small sizes, and then you freeze them. However, if you do not have enough space in your freezer, or you do not have a freezer to store the cassava dough and corn dough, you can get a container that is airtight, that has an airtight lid. So you press it, and then you store it in the container, and then you cover it with the lid tightly so that air does not go in there. Even when you are about to use it, and then you notice there are some dark green or yellowish to dark spores on it, take a flat spoon and carefully scoop, remove all those dark spores or yellowish substances at the top of the dough before you use it to prepare your Banku, Akple, Kenkey, and or cocoa or any other food. Then the next point is that you should carefully sort out your grains before you use them to make your food. For example, when you look at the maize, when you buy maize, sometimes you see that some of them have been discolored. They become yellowish to green, dark green, or dark. You see that the color has changed. Please take your time and pick them out and discard them. Then you can use the ones that have not been affected. So you can use those to mill and then make your akple or your favorite food. Then another point is, you should wash your rice thoroughly before you cook. So don't just fetch your rice and then pour it directly in the boiling water or whatever to cook. Washing it will wash away any contamination. Remember, contamination occurs during storage as well. So you want to clean or wash away any toxic substance that may be in there. Then it's also important to be careful when it comes to fermented food, in eating fermented food or drinking fermented drinks. For example, here in Ghana, some people like mashed cake or mashed kenkey. And there is nothing wrong with enjoying your mashed cake. But the serious part is when you prepare your mashed cake and then you bury it. Some people bury it to become fermented for a number of days before they consume it. That is very toxic to your liver. So please desist from eating such highly fermented foods. Then those who make their banku and keep it for weeks, that is not safe. Aside the fermentation introducing a lot of alcohol into the banku, which is also not good for the liver, there could be contamination by aflatoxins, which is even deadly to the liver. So please make your banku sizable, keep it for at least 2 days, and then by which time you should be done, and then you prepare a fresh one for consumption, so that you do not poison yourself and your family. So it is important to take good care of our liver so that we do not come in contact with this poisonous substance. At least let's try our best. Thank you, and please watch out for more videos from me.